So hey everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since ABC has shown us another new episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that night was tonight where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. finally had another new episode on the ABC channel. So today I'm going to tell you about episode 14, which is basically the 4-week return for the show. In this episode, you guys, and it's kind of unfortunate that this had to be such a long break in between episodes because this episode was very much a continuation off of last episode where Agent Skye, for those who didn't see the previous episode either, where Agent Skye, got brutally hurt from a gun wound, and it's very hard to bring her back to life at this point. So basically, Coulson and his agents have to go to extreme lengths to get Agent Skye back to life. And what they do is because Agent Coulson himself came back through quite a mysterious solution, they figured if he came back, through a very severe situation, how come, why couldn't Skye be able to go through the same thing? So what they do is Coulson and the agents, they try to track down the place um, where basically Coulson came back to life and was able to be a part of this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show after the events of the Avengers. And so while they're there, Coulson learns even more about the Tahiti program. Kind of more about how he was able to come back. So this is another episode where Coulson gets to learn more about himself as to how he came back, and us as the viewer gets to learn more in return as well. And it sounds like we'll be learning even more about Coulson's return back to life throughout future episodes as well. So this episode, like I said, it was basically about getting Skye back to life again. Make sure her breathing was good, make sure that she had at least a heart rate, because before, she barely even had a heart rate, and so they were doing everything in their power to make sure that that Skye wouldn't be dead, and that she'd be able to be a part of the Coulson's agents team once again. So for tonight's episode, you guys, I didn't hate tonight's episode. I did. I think I will go so far as to say that I liked tonight's episode. But at the same time, I think there was a lot of things that could have been way better about it. But I did like it. I liked tonight's episode, but like I said, there was just a lot of things about it that I think could have been improved a lot. So for positives and negatives of tonight's episode, I liked all the Avengers references and all of the Deathlock references. Deathlock is starting to come into play here. It almost makes me curious if Deathlock is either going to have his own TV show down the road, or if there is another Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. season eventually down the road as well, that might focus on Deathlock some more. Or who knows, maybe Marvel is planning a Deathlock movie at some point because of the show as well. So a lot of Deathlock references and a lot of Avengers references, with Coulson coming back to life, and they talked about basically that big scene in Avengers, where they think Coulson is dead and things like that. So that was referenced a lot throughout this episode. So if you haven't seen Avengers, this is definitely the time to do so, because this episode definitely represents what Agent Coulson did throughout the Avengers movie quite a bit in this episode. We learned more about Coulson's resurrection in this episode. I thought that was really cool, really neat, really interesting. So I really liked how they're exploring that episode of the character some more in the show. Bill Paxton, for those who are fans of him, he joined the cast in this episode. I don't know if he'll be a series regular from here on out, because I think they're going up to 23 episodes for a season one. So I don't know if he, like I said, he's just a guest character or if he will be a reoccurring character for future episodes. But it was great to see Bill Paxton be a part of the team here. Still has it in him. He's still a great actor. He's gotten a little heavier since last time we've seen him in some big films like Twister and Weird Science and things like that. So, but he's still that very talented actor that we've always remembered him being. So it was great seeing him being a part of this Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show as well now. The episode also represented the importance behind, why Agent Skye is a part of this team. I know they've done that in a few other previous episodes now as well, but I think this episode was very good about, representing just how important Agent Skye is. There's even a point where Fitz and Simmons were futzing around with this little computer system, and they realize that there's a lot of coding and a lot of things that Skye out of the whole team knows the best out of everybody, and without her, that kind of that very computer heavy side of the Shield business is almost it's very hard to go through now without her. And so in this episode, it really shows just how much Skye does for the team, and so that's why I think it was very emotional throughout the episode as to why she's absent, and if she goes, there's going to be a lot that happens throughout Shield that's really going to be missing her in the future. This is also a fun setup for next week's episode. At the end of the episode tonight, basically, I'll try to be as spoiler free as I can, but at the same time, I do want to get people, informed about what we're going to be expecting for next week. It looks like for next week's episode, we will be seeing Sif from the Thor films. Jamie Alexander's character from those films. She'll be in this next episode because I guess there's an Asgardian lady that has come to Earth who's evil. Sif is going to be the good Asgardian, and this other girl is going to be the bad one. From what I know about next week's episode, it sounds like Sif and this other girl will be fighting each other. So that should be pretty interesting. Kind of a nice way to reference the Thor films and everything. It was a fun setup. They definitely showed how this girl is going to be trying to take over everything and things like that. So it was kind of a nice fun setup for that for next week. Basically, this girl was able to convince this guy who was at a hotel with his wife. He's either hypnotized or brainwashed or something, and so he basically, he's working for this girl now, and he's probably going to appear a lot through next episode and be, kind of this woman's assistant in some way. This is a very dramatic and tragic episode in a way too. Like I said, it very much showed just how important Skye was to the team in this episode. So very dramatic, very tragic. Definitely, if you're a fan of Agent Skye, this is definitely an episode to check out if you missed tonight's episode. I think the WatchABC.com is probably going to have this episode up pretty soon on their website, so make sure you do. It's a very important Agent Skye episode, so make sure you do that. For the negatives of this episode, I didn't feel like it was a Marvel comic enough feeling to this episode. This is I know I've made that complaint a few other episodes ago too for other episodes. But tonight's episode really did feel like it was from a Marvel comic. And besides the Deathlock references, besides the Avengers references, and besides the fact that this is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it just didn't feel like a Marvel comic enough. And so I guess for future episodes, I hope my guess is, with Sif and the Asgardian lady for the next episode, my guess is it's going to go back to that direction again. So I hope they do that because tonight's episode really did feel like it belonged in a Marvel comic universe. So, also, not a lot of action this episode. This is a very action-absent episode, so I hope for future episodes, because like I said, we're getting Sif and this other Asgardian person next week. Hopefully, we're going to get more action then for future episodes and for that episode specifically. There was also some really bad green screening in this episode. If you look closely, when Bill Paxton and Agent Coulson were running away from that explosion, that was some terrible green screen. I'm sorry, but that would just felt like a high school video production room. It really didn't feel like high quality stuff for that scene. The episode got very slow at times. There's just kind of a lot of times throughout the episode, like, okay, pick up the pace, get a little bit faster, get to the next point. Come on, don't be afraid. And it's just like it felt like it was afraid to make the next point. It's like, oh well, we gotta still cover this, and okay, now we'll go to this point. Oh no, we gotta cover this still. We gotta cover this. Okay, now we're going to that point. And it felt a little slow. It just felt way slower than it needed to be. I felt this episode just needed more things to do. I know it was tragic and sad to see, Skye almost dying and things like that, but there was just not a lot that really happened in this episode if you really break it down. I mean, it was just Skye's in a very bad position. They got to find a way to bring her back. And Coulson learns a few things every once in a while throughout the episode about, his resurrection, which we're going to learn even more about from what I know for future episodes. So I felt like more could have happened because the show is so good about covering so much material within an hour. I felt like this episode felt like it was afraid to cover too much. And I understand, it would feel overstuffed if it had too much material. But this episode really feel like it needed more material. So I hope they bring more material in for future episodes. So, like I said, I like tonight's episode, you guys. But like I said, they could have done a little bit more with it. So. Who knows? Maybe next week's episode will be fun. And it's only 1 week wait now, so we don't have to wait 3 or 4 weeks for the next episode. So I will see you guys here for a future video.